Hello, everyone, and welcome to Collider Nightmares. We're live again, second time in a row. Woohoo!
Yeah.
I'm very proud of us. My name is Clarke Wolfe. It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Boy, we have got a huge show today. I am so excited for it. So before we dive right in, let's go ahead and introduce our panel. To my left is Miss Perri Nemiroff.
I am so excited that I have to bust out. No, I did it wrong again. I was sure I was going to get it right. Right there. Right there.
Right there.
That there.
Oh,
I
boy.
can't do it. I'm just going to stop. Karyn Kusama.
She's here.
Oh, my God. Yeah. You guys all know how I feel about the invitation, so I'm very happy right now.
Director of Jennifer's Body, and the upcoming and segment in the upcoming XX, The Invitation, so much more. Girl Fight. She is just right around that corner, right there, and she's going to be our mid-show guest. So stay tuned and be sure to tweet your Twitter questions. Use the hashtag Collider Nightmares, and we are going to be pulling live Twitter questions. So go ahead, send them in. Be nice, please. And let's go ahead and keep introducing our panel. To Perri's left is Mr. John Schnepp.
That's right. I blame Perri for me seeing The Invitation, and I'm so happy I did. It's a really awesome film. She was like, it's on Netflix, and I checked it out. It's definitely a really good horror film, and happy to be back. What's up? Live. Tweet your questions.
Love it. And to my right is Mr. Mark Reilly.
Oh, hell yeah, The Invitation is amazing. Just watched it again the other night on Netflix, and I'm happy to be here. It's kind of like Christmas for me. Friday the 13th last week, and then, oh, shoot.
See, none of us
and
can
then
do it.
that one over.
I can't tell
You
if
know
that
what
was
I'm talking
honest
about.
or making fun of me.
Yeah, no, I'm not making fun of you. I'm trying to do it myself. I can't do it, though.
That's okay. Well, let's dive into it right now, shall we? First things first, fresh meat.
Fresh meat.
Oh my gosh. So, first of all, I want to send a big sarcastic thanks a lot to Blumhouse for dropping this huge news the day
boy.
after we go live.
I
Guys,
know.
you're killing me, Smalls. But nevertheless, I am still super excited about it. Let's talk about it right now. So, David Gordon Green will direct Halloween,
Wow.
and Danny McBride will co-write with Green. And this was announced last week by John Carpenter himself, who also teased that maybe, just maybe, he'll come back to do the music. OMG, you guys. All right, so here's what you need to know. Danny McBride recently gave an update on the direction that they will take the franchise, and you guys had a lot to say about this on Twitter, including Robert Reynolds, who asked, with Danny McBride doing Halloween, is it going to be another Halloween Resurrection or a dark tone film? Well, Robert, here is your answer. Danny McBride spoke with Cinema Blend recently and said it is not a remake. Their upcoming take on Michael Myers will be grounded. And the further along in the quote, he said, for our mythology, we're focusing mainly in the two feature movies and what that sets up and then where the story can go from there. And regarding he and David Gordon Green being the choice here for bringing Halloween back to the big screen, Danny McBride said, Green and I are definitely going to do a straight-up horror movie. Halloween has always been one of my favorite movies of all time. There's a simplicity and an efficiency to that first one that I think allows the movie to just be scary as hell. And so Green and I, our approach is to get back to that. So, okay. As I break this chair because I'm so excited.
Break it.
This is something that I know we are all super excited about and can't wait to chime in on. And I had a meltdown on Twitter because I was so excited for this. And I want to tell you why, because I think a lot of people were kind of like, really? The cranky guy, the cranky Southern guy from like every movie ever, and David Gordon Green, Pineapple Express, Halloween? You guys, these guys are such horror fans. They have been, first of all, we know that David Gordon Green's been trying to do Suspiria for a long, long time. And Danny McBride, there's a great interview with him on WTF with Mark Maron where he talks about when he first moved to LA, he wanted to be a writer-director. He had no interest in being an actor. And he was writing horror scripts, fantasy scripts, because that's his jam. That's what he is into. And I went from I don't care about a new Halloween movie to, oh my God, I have to see this Halloween movie. So Reilly, I want to go ahead and start with you. You got your Friday the 13th news last week.
Yeah.
Is this better this week?
This is funny how it landed with me because I did probably what a lot of people did, what you just alluded to, Clark, which is Pineapple Express got Danny McBride. And this news sunk in. And man, is it great. I turned around probably the next day and went, this is what you need to do. This is fresh. This is exciting. And hearing this backstory that they're huge horror fans makes it even better. They know how to make a movie. We know that. I love Pineapple Express. I think it's a fantastic comedy, funny, great action in it. So I have a lot of faith in this. I love hearing the backstory. And what I love, pay attention, Friday the 13th makers, going back to the simplicity of the idea and then setting it in the canon of the original movies, taking place after Halloween 2. It's smart. It makes sense to me, and that gets me excited. You have John Carpenter, the godfather of this, the creator of this, giving his blessing, doing the announcement himself, sounding so damn excited. He goes to Facebook to post a status update. He's just like, yes! And then saying he's coming back to do the music. Maybe he's coming back.
He's coming
This guy
back.
is touring around, playing his music. He is coming back. Mark my words. This is great. This is what everybody should look at. And I'm hoping it turns out great. You know, remains to be seen. But we got Blumhouse doing what they need to do, hiring some fantastic, out-of-the-box directors and writers. I couldn't be more excited.
On Twitter, Dustin Jacobs said, Southern Fried Halloween, anyone? Which I love that tweet. All right, this side of the table, jump in. What are your thoughts?
I had a similar reaction to Reilly, where when this first dropped, I'm like, And on Movie Talk, I had said, if you had asked me who was going to get picked to direct this movie, David Gordon Green would be nowhere near my list of contenders. I have warmed up to the idea, though, and primarily because when you look at his filmography, that's some solid work. I do not like Your Highness whatsoever, but everything else is great, and the two of them are just really talented creators, and why can't this work, especially if they're really hardcore horror fans? And those Cinema Blend quotes really do give me hope, and obviously you can't look at, you know, a couple of statements and say, oh, that means it's going to be a good one, but the idea of it not being a remake makes me very happy, because that is not what we have a lot of quotes floating around right now where people are always like, I forgot what the last story we did was, but it was something where it was taking a classic and redoing it, and oh, I think it was the Suspiria one actually. Oh, it's not a remake. We hear that all the time. Here, in the context of that quote, it makes sense. I like the idea of them taking what happened in the first two movies and expanding on that and keeping the focus on that. And then what Reilly pointed out, that line he said about simplicity and efficiency, that is Halloween. That is the original Halloween, and that is what any Halloween movie should be. So if they stick to their guns in that respect, I really have sky-high hopes for this now.
Schnepp, John Carpenter in that Facebook post said that they blew him away with their pitch. Does this blow you away?
It does not. You know, when I heard this, I had zero hesitation. Danny McBride does a lot of things, but what he doesn't do is suck. This man is pure talent.
I agree.
Going from The Foot This Way all the way through the HBO series Eastbound and Down. He is comedic gold, but beyond him just being able to deliver funny, he's also a great actor. He's also a great writer, and he's a horror fan. And I find that when you mix the genres, you have comedy, you have tragedy, like the classic, any kind of amazing things that work, you have to run that gamut. You also have David Gordon Green, who's an amazing director who can run those gamuts as well. Obviously, he's done a lot of comedies. He's wanted to get into horror. Now these guys are both getting into horror the right way with Halloween. And Carpenter's 100% into it. He's doing that music. I saw Carpenter live playing that music. I can't wait to see him play again. I'm going to see him every time he ever hits California. I'm getting tickets because it's an amazing experience. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with a sequel to Halloween 2. I couldn't ask for a better group of people to be involved.
I agree. I'm so glad we're all excited. And I wanted to also point out Vice Principals, which shot 2 seasons back-to-back. Season 1 premiered last year, and Season 2 is coming this year. This is a show that is not Eastbound and Down. It is not laugh-out-loud funny most of the time. Sometimes it really is.
Right.
But I bring it up because the darkness
It's
in
dark.
Vice Principals and the fearlessness of the cast, of the creatives behind the scenes,
what is the second guy's name? Walt
Goggins.
Goggins.
Walter Goggins, yeah.
Both of those guys are incredible.
And I don't have her name in front of me, but the woman who plays the vice principal or the principal is amazing. So I say all this to say they're getting great performances out of that cast. They're going really dark with this, and I know it is a step in the direction. I think it's great, a great thing to look at and say, yeah, I think these guys have it. I'm so excited, and I can't wait. And it's coming out next October. Oh, it's killing me. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Alexander Skarsgard will lead the cast of Jeremy Saulnier. Did I say it right? Perri?
Yeah, I like that.
She's like close enough.
Yeah.
His next thriller for Netflix. So here's what you need to know. Skarsgard joins Jeffrey Wright, James Badgedale, Reilly
Coe,
and James Moore in Hold the Door, not to be confused with Hodor. Hodor. Hold the Door is based on a novel by William Giraldi that is, quote, set in the Alaskan wilderness where wolves are killing children. A biologist arrives on the scene to investigate and tangles with a dead boy's dysfunctional parents. Macon Blair, who's worked with Saulnier on, so many different projects in different capacities, will write the script. And speaking of Netflix, Stephen King has weighed in on a rough cut of Mike Flanagan's adaptation of Gerald's Game, which is coming straight to Netflix, calling it horrifying, hypnotic, and terrifying. Netflix is crushing. Now, many of you enjoyed Green Room, including yeah, well, not you, Perri. I'm talking about our audience. But at Rich Cruel Sugar, who called it brutal, intense, and crazy, and Danny Ramirez, who said it was a bloody, gory film. Thank you, Collider Nightmares, for the recommendation. Perri, this was your favorite movie of the decade.
I wouldn't go that far.
But, let's talk about this. Like, are you excited that he is joining this Netflix band of...
Yes, I couldn't even let you finish because I am so excited.
Go for it.
Anything Jeremy Saulnier touches, I will watch. Anything Alexander Skarsgard is in, I will most certainly watch. And this is just a really exciting move for him. He's had a lot of success in the feature film realm, and what better place to make a move and just expand your craft and play around with different story formats than by doing a Netflix show? I mean, we always talk about this when we hear about things being adapted to television is I am going to be exponentially more excited if it's going to Netflix. So this is just a union of some of my favorite things, and I think this book is going to have to go on my reading list. I mean, now that I'm done with Meg and I'm taking a break until the next Star Wars book comes out, maybe this is the next thing. But this sounds like a concept that he could really work with. It's just like I could see his style and his tone being a perfect fit for this kind of material.
Love it. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
Oh my God. Look, if you told me Jeremy was doing an adaptation of Everybody Poops, I would be in. This guy is a fantastic director, as seen with Green Room. I'm sorry, Perri, I'm with you. That was in my top 10 last year. I love that movie. I watched it again, and it just got me so much. So yeah, I like stopped listening to like some of the details because I'm like, I'm just gonna watch it. I don't care. But I look at also the cast. Yeah, Skarsgård I really like, but Jeffrey Wright and James Badgedale, those actors get me excited. All this gets me excited.
James Badgedale needs more credit.
He absolutely
in everything
does.
He's in.
Yeah, and Netflix, to comment on what Netflix is doing, they are just reinventing the game here. They are just taking it over and kicking ass and taking names. So I can't wait. Is this going to get? Do you know if it's going to get a limited release, or is this going to be straight to Netflix?
As far as I know, it's straight to Netflix.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they put it in a handful of theaters just for that theatrical experience.
And you know what? And that's where I was going with it. I hope they do, because the one thing I wish I had done was see Green Room in theaters. I missed that because I had the reactions of my girlfriend as I was watching it, who did and I want that in the theater, and I love that theater going experience. So let's hope it does happen. But either way, my God, what a great grab. And to comment on what Stephen King said about Gerald's Game, man, I'm interested because I've read that book. I don't know how that's going to play out, but if the creator himself is saying it's good, sign me up.
Oh man, I'm so excited for that.
Good on
Schnepp.
me reading the show notes. I was busy talking about it like it's a TV series.
That's okay.
It's a movie.
You were so excited. You
I
couldn't
know.
read it right.
I'm so excited. I had a big fat brain fart.
Well,
Everyone
it makes
poops.
sense that they got him. I mean, I'm looking for Red Car or some other thing that's like Green Room,
Yeah,
Blue,
Blue
Ruin.
Ruin.
And I love Blue Ruin. I think I like Blue Ruin better than Green Room, even though I like Green Room. So I think he's a great director. I think it's a great setup for his skill set. And then reading the synopsis, already imagining kind of like what he might be doing within that world. So we just get to watch it happen on Netflix. So that's the world we live in. So yeah, if it comes out theatrically, I probably would want to see it in the theater.
I saw a Green Room at Fantastic Fest 2 years ago, and seeing it in a theater with people screaming and reacting was a beautiful thing. So a morbidly very beautiful thing. So I highly recommend, if it does, we'll take a Collider Nightmares field trip and go see it together.
Yay!
Get in the bloody bus.
Exactly, the bloody bus. Here we go. All right, kiddies. So let's get on the bloody bus and scream our favorite thing. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box? Oh, good. Okay, so Channel Zero, the creepypasta-inspired anthology series that premiered last year with Candle Cove, has been renewed for a third and fourth season by Syfy. So here's what you need to know. Nick Antosca will return to showrun, produce, and write seasons 3 and 4 alongside EP Max Landis. No End House, season 2 of the series, which we saw a quick teaser for after the Candle Cove finale, will premiere in October 2017. And Antosca was previously a writer-producer on Hannibal and says that Slender Man will not be a topic on Channel Zero. Probably a good move, right?
Yeah, great move.
What do you think, Schnepp?
HBO is already covering that horrible thing that happened with the girls in real life. I'm tired of Slender Man. I want to see other stuff. And this little preview that they showed at the end of the first Candle Cove for the second series, we got to wait till October. So what? There's so many other things going on, guys. It's not that big of a deal. It's only 10 months. It's even less. It's like 8 months.
Oh my God! But Reilly, you said earlier, you were like, Stranger Things, new Channel Zero. There's too much to watch in October, and I agree. Can't we have it sooner?
Well, I think what's great is that we have that much stuff to watch. Because there's going to be no movies in theaters that are, at least, it's going to change. There's going to be a horror movie, hopefully. But, obviously we lost Friday the 13th, so now, great, stay in, go trick-or-treating, go to a small party, and then come home and watch all this wonderful goodness.
There's the new Saw Legacy or whatever the hell it's called by the Spierig brothers, and if you don't know who they are, look them up. They're going to actually do something really exciting with Saw. That's what I'm thinking.
I hope so, because I'm just not a big fan of Saw.
Well, and now, it doesn't have much competition either.
Yeah, that's true. But for this, I need to get back on this the Syfy series because I know I missed it. I wasn't getting into the Candle Cove right away. It does pick up, but that's what I hear. That's what you said. But all of these sound fantastic, and I'm starting to like peel back the layers of this creepy pasta thing, and it's just getting to my horror loving heart, and I just want to spend like a Saturday and just dive into this thing so I know more of what I'm talking about. But this looks great, so
it is well worth doing too.
Yeah.
It's one of those shows that I think might play a little better if you binge it. That's what I did. Is I watched them all back to back to back, and I loved it.
Yeah.
However, I don't want to get too hyped about it. Almost feels like I shouldn't say season 1 was so great, let's greenlight 2. No, 3 and 4 as well. So I don't want to get too excited until I see season 2. But at the same time, I love season 1 so much that it's hard not to look forward to it, and impossible not to be happy for the creators and everyone working on the show, because if season 1 does mean anything for the future of the series, they're in good shape. They know what they're doing. They know how to adapt these stories, and there is just a wealth of source material to choose from. Things that are somewhat well known, not well known at all. I mean, the possibilities are really endless. The only downside to this is the fact that we're not getting season 2 until Halloween. Because
but you're gonna get like 8 episodes, you greedy weirdos. Come on,
I
I can wait.
It's Channel Zero. It's Stranger Things. American Horror Story, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and even this year in theaters, it's way more stacked, at least than last year. Halloween movies just sucked. I think all we ended up getting was Ouija 2. Next year, at least, we have Insidious Chapter 4, and then on Halloween weekend, it is the Untitled Saw movie and 2017 Cloverfield movie.
How excited are we going to be in September? Imagine that.
I'm going to lose my mind.
It's exciting.
And I'm never leaving the house in October. Never. I've got
right.
way too much to do. Well, here's the thing. I want to talk about the idea that Syfy was just like, so we know that when we saw the teaser, right, back when Candle Cove wrapped up, they had shot a little bit of footage, enough to put a little bit of a teaser. And then John Carroll Lynch, we joined this cast earlier this year. So they've been shooting for about 2 months at this point. This says to me that Syfy is so confident in what they have that they're like, you know what, let's lock these guys in right now. And Nick Antosca signed an overall deal with UCP as well. So, I mean, they clearly want to be in the business of Channel Zero.
That's exactly where my mind went. I mean, that's the only reason I could think for making a decision like this at this point in time. It's like, it's one thing to greenlight the next season for a new show, but when you take a season 1 and then greenlight a 3 and 4, it's because something is working really well in 2. So I think that could be the case here. I really hope it is.
Ooh, fingers crossed. Okay, let's move on to another topic that came up around this time last week that a couple of you guys tweeted at us. Castlevania is coming to Netflix. So here's what you need to know. Season 1, Part 1 of the animated series based on the video game has been announced by Netflix. Dredd producer Adi Shankar has teased in past interviews that the show will be, quote, super violent and promises to, quote, flip the vampire subgenre on its head. Netflix says the series is, quote, a dark medieval fantasy following the last surviving member of the disgraced Belmont clan trying to save Eastern Europe from extinction at the hand of Vlad Dracula himself. Schnepp, is this in your wheelhouse?
Oh, vaguely.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think I messed around with, like, the incarnation of 1 of, like, the very early version of Castlevania where it's like, pew, pew, pew. Like, I'm in a Doom-like corridor. I never really got too far into it. I played Doom instead. But, yeah, I mean, it sounds fun. I love the idea of it. So I guess it's halfway in my wheelhouse.
Interesting. Well, I think the idea of adult animation coming to Netflix. So we recently saw Guillermo del Toro with Troll Hunters, not adult animation, but still, you know, Netflix is dipping their more than dipping their toe into the acclaimed animation game. And the idea of like a hardcore violent series like this, I think is pretty exciting. Do you guys have, I don't know this property super well, but I'm endlessly curious about it.
No, I don't know it very well either, except for, you know, I'm aware of the visuals and I'm aware of the game. I never really played it, and I certainly don't know the story except for what I've found on Wikipedia. But I was going back and looking, because this is something that's been in play for a little while now, so I was looking back at some of his old quotes, Adi Shankar's old quotes about this idea, and there's a lot of stuff that came from 2015, so if that still stands and is still the project that we're getting, it certainly sounds interesting. And just the idea of getting a dark medieval fantasy on Netflix, that's something we don't have. And there's so many interesting characters that could be in play, because the one thing I was reading is that the story, he said this a while ago, so it might not be true anymore, but that the story was going to be based on Castlevania 3, and that just has a whole lot of things in it with really interesting characters where one of the members of the family, here, I'll read a description of the 3 characters that you could team up with in that game. One is a young sorceress with poor physical attack power but powerful elemental magic spells at her disposal. Another is a pirate with the ability to climb on walls and change direction in mid-jump, which apparently was like a cool thing to be able to do in a video game.
That sounds like a cool thing right now.
And then
I'm on board.
Dracula's son, with the ability to shoot fireballs
Vlad
and transform into a bat. So based on those character descriptions, I'm sold. And I also really liked his Judge Dredd series, which was a cool animated series.
Love it. I'm on board with a pirate that can climb the walls and be weird.
Let me say, I'm 100% into seeing an adult animated series on Netflix. Would it have Castlevania been my first choice? No. But now I'm waiting to see what it's actually going to be, because I really do want. I feel like there's nothing been done since Heavy Metal the movie for anybody who wants to see anything animated that doesn't revolve around a nuclear family and fart jokes. So I mean, I think for true horror fans who love animated horror or animated sci-fi, this could fit that, fit that role. But I have to wait to see it.
Reilly?
Yeah, that's where I was going, is that we don't have animated stuff like this, and to put it in the horror spectrum, to take the brand that is Castlevania that has been making games since the 80s. I mean, this title has been around. I played the first game until I had to blow on the Nintendo game to get it in there and then do it perfectly because I needed to keep going. I loved playing that Castlevania game. I fell off. I don't know the history of the series anymore, and nor do I know Castlevania 3. So if he's basing it on that, but yeah, people crawling on walls, pirates, whatever. I do know he takes on like different monsters throughout the game. So if we can see that, I would love that. If he's spinning the Dracula legend or Vlad and spinning on his head and doing something different, great. I can't wait. I love the idea of an R-rated, bloody, gory Castlevania on Netflix. Again, Netflix, look at you. You're just doing it, man. So I can't wait.
Well,
this is great.
Perfect segue, because I want to go back to that real fast. Netflix is looking for horror comedies, animated horror, psychological horror, Stephen King horror with Mike Flanagan, who's one of the most, revered up-and-coming. I mean, he say up-and-coming. He's not really up-and-coming, but filmmakers who's working right now. I mean, I think that what does this say about the state of the genre in general? Because I feel like Netflix would not invest in this if people weren't already watching it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So I feel like this is basically signaling that horror and genre is popular with a massive audience because people are searching it in their queues. We wouldn't be getting it if they weren't.
No, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense across the board too. I mean, you could look at Split. I mean, that just crushed it at the box office, to say the least. And I have a feeling Get Out is on that track as well. Everybody likes, okay, bad statement. A lot of people out there are liking Hanra.
Hanra?
I love that.
I love Perri's creating all new genres on every show.
We need to put that. This answers that stupid question I get asked every single week. Why do you say genre instead of horror? Why do you say horror instead of genre? I'm just going to call it Hanra from now on.
Hanra is one of my favorite genres.
It's one of your favorite genres?
A genre is one of my favorite genres.
A
subgenre of the genre.
That's right. Something came out in the middle of stuttering.
It's great.
Oh,
I said
Perri.
it like it was a thing.
You've coined a new phrase now, Hanra, and you said it authoritatively.
As long as Netflix keeps making Hanras, I'll keep watching Netflix. And I think one of the things that happened with streaming, along with a lot of other, like Amazon and other, there was a lot of Hanras available to watch,
yes.
but they sucked. So now a lot of the companies like Amazon and Netflix, let's make our own Hanras and make them better than the garbage ones that are available right now, because we could up that game and then they're ours alone.
No.
So other people can't have them, so it makes it exclusive and it's good for us. It's a win-win Hanra situation.
It is a win-win Hanra situation, and I love the fact that we are in a situation where there are no ratings at play. We're not going to be holding these filmmakers down under these heavy constraints. Right. Netflix, I was shocked during Santa Clarita Diet when I saw that there was not the violence, but the cursing and like all the weird stuff that happens. Like that would have gotten that would have to be on pay cable.
Oh, yeah.
But Netflix is just like, nope, this is our show. Here we go. I love it. Netflix, thank you for everything you've done for us Hanra fans.
Freedom
us
for Hanra.
Hanra fans are so grateful.
Sitting as far away from the mic as possible right now.
All right, well, how about this? We'll move on into our Monster of the Week and give everybody a second to reset.
Okay. Much appreciated.
So this was super exciting. This week, our Monster of the Week is Mr. Gore Verbinski. And man, so he's got a new movie coming out this Friday. It's called A Cure for Wellness. And I had the opportunity to welcome the Academy Award-winning director to the Nightmare set to talk about his new movie. And we talked horror, we talked genre, we talked influences, we talked about the fact that his movie is beautiful and crazy and rated R, and a major studio is releasing it, and it had a budget. I mean, it was a very, very cool conversation. So here's just a little piece of it. would love to hear more about the influences on this film, in addition to fairy tales and Lovecraft and all of these things that you've already mentioned. I know, I mean, I certainly noticed the elements of Rosemary's Baby and the elements of, I think you had mentioned maybe a Polanski, The Tenant was an influence on the film.
That film freaked me out.
Right?
Yes.
It's a very scary, unsettling
Teeth.
movie.
Yeah, that's like, yeah. There's a lot of teeth going on in that movie.
There's a lot of teeth going on in this movie.
Yeah, well, you have to, go into. We're sort of hardwired for, things that are like drowning. Is particularly nightmarish, at least for me. I don't know about you. And, certainly taking water and saying, well, what is there something in the liquid, and therefore is there something inside me? All things that slither, Yeah, we're trying to look. You're watching Lockhart reluctantly become a patient at this place, but you're the patient, right? I mean, you're in the darkened room, and we're sort of bringing sound and image to bear to mess with your head.
There are speaking of the slithering, there are lots of sneaky, slinky things in this movie, and I think it's an appropriate segue to get a little bit Freudian, but there is a really intense sexuality in this movie, and I was surprised. There was so much in this film. I think the visuals. Nobody can look at the trailer and go, like the visuals are compelling on their own. But when I saw the trailer and understood the basic premise, I thought, okay, I may have seen something like this before, right? A guy goes to maybe they're all crazy. But there's so much more horror and different kinds of horrors going on in this film.
Yes, we're not showing you anything in the third act in any of the materials,
which is great. I love that. But there is an element of sexuality, Hannah's sexuality, other people in the place location sexuality, and the eels spoke to me.
Did they? In Freudian terms?
Yep, they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I want to keep it enigmatic. I don't want to define that, but sure, yeah, I think that's, it's nice to not know what's coming and to be the sort of untrustworthy narrator. I think there's something, we quite often, we come up to that membrane and we're unwilling to pierce it, and I think it's important from time to time to break through it, just to keep you guessing as to what are we capable of? I mean, are we going to go there? Are we going to go too far in the next time? And I think that there's value in the agitation of that and the kind of sense of I don't completely trust the person telling me this story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't feel like we see big movies like this happen very often. We talked a little bit about the $150 million movie or the $8 million movie, but this movie just looked, it was so fun for me as a genre fan to watch an R-rated studio movie that looked like it cost money and was ambitious and was weird. Do you know what I mean? That's not really a question, that's just more of a compliment. I really enjoyed that experience.
Yeah, I think, we're testing a model, right? Which is, everybody's run away from the middle, and we're saying we're going to run right at that, and sure, data says don't go there, but we are, if the film finds its champions and people who enjoy this and enjoy movies like this, we'll be able to do it again, and it's not for everybody, and that's kind of what's wonderful about it.
So it's about time for me to wrap up, but I wanted to ask a couple of quick, rapid-fire questions. Not in the psychiatric way, more just in a fun way. But the first thing I wanted to ask is, what would you say would be a good double bill for A Cure for Wellness?
Wow. It would have to be more than one other movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can have two. I'll give you two. How
Two?
about that? I'll give you a trilogy. How many do you want?
I went 6.
Okay, well, you gotta meet me.
Okay.
You gotta meet me a little bit further down.
That's really interesting. I don't, because when you do that, you really want to not have more of the same. I think you want some, it's like you want something crunchy next to your mushy, slow-cooked pork or whatever it is. So,
So if you were to program a night at the New Beverly and you get
Cure
4 or
for
5
Wellness.
movies to play with A Cure for Wellness.
Well, I'm gonna go against my own thinking there because all I can think of is, well, there's a wonderful movie called The Innocents by Jack Clayton that starts Deborah Carr, and it was sort of the movie I kept referring to when we were working with Ben Walfish, the composer. We were trying to conceive this this lullaby, this sort of the tune, and there's a wonderful tune in that movie that haunted me from the moment I saw it, and it's super effective. So I'll probably regret this as soon as I say it, but yeah, I would say The Innocents.
Okay. If you want to come back and amend your earlier
I
statement,
will. Yeah.
you are more than
well,
welcome.
I was going
to.
to say The Tenant, and then I was going to say The Servant by Joseph Losey, which is a favorite. Don't Look Now.
Yes.
For sure. And then The Shining, obviously, and things like that. But I think that The Innocents is it's a film most people aren't aware of, and it's really beautiful.
So go watch the rest of this interview if you enjoyed that part. Even if you didn't, we talked about some really good stuff. We talked about The Ring, PG-13 versus R-rated horror, remakes, the whole deal. And don't forget A Cure for Wellness, which I love because it's sick and weird and awesome, is in theaters this Friday. And now I wanted to tell you that we have a very special guest. We all sing her praises at the top of the show today. So let's go ahead and introduce her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Karyn Kusama. Karyn, hi.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. Thank you for being on the show.
It's nice to be here.
So you are the director of the segment Her Only Living Son, featured in the upcoming anthology XX, coming out this Friday, and last year's genre favorite, The Invitation, and past films include Girl Fight and Jennifer's Body. I guess I wanted to just start by talking about XX. The movie had, our audience reacted so strongly to the trailer. I think I told the story at the screening last week, but we just missed it when the trailer came out because of our shooting schedule. And of course, the #1 comment was, "Why aren't you talking about XX? This looks so good." And so I would love to hear about, you got involved pretty early in this process. So can you talk a little bit about that, and then what kind of motivated you to make the short that you made?
I did get involved early. Todd Brown, who is a producer at XYZ Films and a producer on XX, he approached me. We had been working together on The Invitation, and I thought it just sounded like a cool opportunity to make something small and contained and have the opportunity to just write something myself and kind of do something very fast. And so it took a while for the film to come together, but once it was ready to kind of go and was bankrolled, I wanted to do an alternate history of Rosemary's Baby. I wanted to imagine a different kind of outcome to that kind of story, which is a movie that I love, and that particular idea of like the demon possession story is really interesting to me, demon spawn, and I think I wanted to take back the narrative a little bit and take some of the power away from, in this case, if you looked at it like a custody battle, take some of the power away from the dad in this case and give more of it to the mom.
It's, Schnepp, I think you watched the film and didn't know that this was Rosemary's Baby
No.
was the inspiration.
No, I was at the screening, the Collider Nightmare sponsor screening that we had last week. You should have been there. It was awesome. And then all of the directors are there in person to talk about their individual films. And then she was mentioning, it's based on, it's like if Rosemary's Baby jumped 20 years ahead. And I was like, oh my God, because Rosemary's Baby is one of my favorite horror films. I just didn't connect the dots. And then once that happened, then my mind kind of retroactively went backwards and fit all those little pieces in, even down to it was like the screaming mailman, the toenails, little things like that. You're like, hey, wait a minute, it all kind of fits in. But it was cool, and I agree with you. It shows a different perspective instead of like, I won't get into any spoilers other than you should just see it. I think it's one of the better of the anthology parts of XX. Definitely check it out. Anthology films are always a mixed bag, and what I might like, you might hate, or vice versa. So that's what's cool about any anthology film. You get a little flavor of each kind of different storytelling thing, but you did a great job.
Yours in particular seemed like it fit the short form very well, but maybe above all the other ones, seems to me like it really could have sustained a full feature. Did you ever think while you were coming up with the idea, maybe I should save that for my own feature?
I wanted to just focus on one day, which was this kid's 18th birthday. So in a way, I always planned for it to be short. I suppose there's, never say never, but
Well, and it's such an important, it's a story that has resonated over time
Yes.
since the novel wildly popular. The film obviously has never gone away since it's come out, and yet I feel like this story ultimately stands on its own in a way, even if you didn't have the connection. It at the end of the day is a story about a mother and her son, and the danger. There's a danger in their relationship, and I just thought that was very brave, but also very interesting to explore on screen, because I don't think we need to talk about Kevin, maybe
Right.
some other handful of films, but this is still a very big taboo in this country to talk about children that are
something's wrong.
Something's
messed up.
I think that was what I was exploring, was the idea that ultimately it's a single parent story.
Yeah.
And it's about the terrifying moment where you look at this kid that you love so much and feel like something's not right with their sanity or something's not right with their mind. It was a parable to me about addiction and mental illness and things like that, like just getting to a place where you face the truth.
This our audience has been tweeting at us nonstop about The Invitation. They've been chiming in since they've discovered the film. I saw the movie at Fantastic Fest 2 years ago, and going on 3 this year. And this was a movie that just it's like if we use the words slow burn to describe a horror movie, this was almost like a slow burn of people figuring out about, learning about it,
Discovering it.
Yeah, the discovery. That's right. So can you talk a little bit about the not only the inspiration for a movie like The Invitation, but sort of the release and how it's sort of grown into this favorite over time?
Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you. Well, we always wanted Phil Hay and Matt Manfredi are a writing team that I've worked with before. I worked with them on Eon Flux. Phil is also my husband, and so we're kind of a family of creators together. And they always wanted to tell the story about, in its most basic form, a dinner party among old friends with a couple of strangers involved, where it just goes, haywire. And so when I got involved, it took a long time to get it made. And once it finally did get made, it got made for a small amount of money. It was a pretty small budgeted film. But Draft House really just killed it with the release. I think they really... they did such a good job of communicating the mystery of the film and ultimately the seriousness of the movie. Like I would say the movie's like psychological horror or psychological suspense even. I don't know if it's it doesn't necessarily fire on all of those genre cylinders, but it was just nice to see that it got a nice theatrical release. It got a really healthy VOD release, and over time, now that it's on Netflix, it's just been discovered.
Yeah,
It's cool.
It's really exciting.
I'm mildly addicted to it at this point. I saw it when it premiered at South by Southwest, and I'll be honest, I was lukewarm. I walked out and I'm like, I don't know if that was for me.
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
And then when it was available to watch whenever I wanted, I watched it again. And without spoiling anything, knowing the ending and watching it with that in mind completely changed the experience. And then I caught myself not being able to stop watching it and picking up on all the details and just being excited for certain beats to hit and certain things to happen. And
Awesome.
yeah, it has turned out to be probably one of my favorites in the last few years, which is a really weird experience because normally...
That is weird.
Yeah, I can't say that about very many movies that I love in my life. But okay,
Well,
can
I love that it started that you didn't quite respond to it, but
Yeah.
that somehow it like got under
She
your
watches
It's
it
a
once a
weird
night
thing.
along with Green Room and then The Invitation. But
Yeah,
I was
I
going
just
to
switch
add
off.
that I watched it because Perri was talking about it.
Oh,
And she
awesome.
mentioned that's how I discovered it. I was like, and I found time later in the evening to watch it. And I was
Right.
like, I loved it too. And it has that slow build and
Yeah,
there's that kind
yep.
of dread
Yep.
that happens right around in the middle of the film that stays there. And I did have a question. I just wanted you to say it on live because I checked it first. I was like, I want to make sure that everyone in the cast, I felt, casting sometimes is a difficult procedure.
Yep,
And,
yep.
one person's there, then you could replace them with someone else. But John Carroll Lynch struck me as like a very particular casting, and I was wondering when I was watching it, was that role written specifically for him? And your answer was
Yes, it was. It was. They always had John in mind. They're friends. They go way back. And, you know, they'd been saying to John, we wrote this role for you. We're so excited. And then he finally read it and he was just like, what does this say about me?
Right, how do you see me?
Yes, exactly. He was really just kind of like, I guess I'm saying thank you. Like he was really kind of shocked by the role, but it's he plays it so beautifully.
Yeah, he's perfect casting.
He's such a
That's
great
nothing
actor.
about his real life. He's probably a really nice guy.
Yeah,
but this
he's
is
a wonderful guy.
frightening.
The wonderful guy who's also the Zodiac killer.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. and Twisty the Clown.
And Twisty the Clown,
Yeah.
exactly. Some of the most horrifying
He
presidents.
also makes little tiny stamps in Fargo. Give him a break.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Very busy.
Exactly.
Well, Reilly has been over here pulling some great live questions.
Yeah.
And so, shall we dive in?
Let's dive in, and thank you guys. I've been going to Twitter. I've been going to the Facebook page where they've posted a live link. This one's a great one from Kristen Smith that I would love to get your 2 cents on. Female directors in general, but particularly in horror, are still underrepresented, but it feels like the last few years have progressed pretty far with films like The Invitation and The Babadook, to name a few. Do you think this is a continuing trend for the coming years?
I hope so.
I do too.
I really hope so, because I think there's a freshness to a lot of the voices that happen to also be female, and I don't know if it's because they're female, but there's it just feels like a new wave. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely hopeful that we're going to see a lot of great work from great women filmmakers.
Great.
And that's sort of where XX came from in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, this desire to say, okay, well, we're not,
Yes.
they're not featured in some of these other
Yes.
anthology series, so we're going to make our own, damn it.
Yeah,
It
and
is
just
fun to
give
think
a
about
platform
that.
to those voices.
But,
You know?
like whether we're talking about just women or I have Get Out on the brain because I saw it recently, just like a comedian directing a horror movie, just like all these fresh voices, you really can tell that when you don't recycle the same filmmakers, there is something so different that I don't want to say nobody else can accomplish, but that is very unique, and that goes back to Halloween. That's part of the reason why I'm so
Totally.
excited about that.
Well, it's important in filmmaking and any kind of media to take chances in order to get a fresh perspective, to renew every type of genre, if you want to use that word, or genre. It's really important to get that out there, to have a renewable source of ideas. And a lot of people, especially women, have not had that chance to be writers and directors in these specific roles. So to have that fresher perspective just reinvigorates everybody.
I agree.
Totally. Raises the bar for
Yes.
all involved. What else we got, Reilly?
All right, we're going to go to The Invitation now because at Stephos1234, if you can explain the opening scene, how is it connected to the overall movie or used to build tension? I really picked up on it upon my second viewing the other night, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this one.
The opening scene is just a short bit where our main characters are driving to the dinner party in question, and they I guess I'll spoil the opening 2 minutes.
There you go.
They hit a coyote. It just comes out of nowhere, and the coyote needs to be dragged off the road by the guy who was driving. Our hero will, and I think it's just meant to be a little bit of a reminder to the audience that the world is unpredictable, that stuff runs in front of us that we can't control, and brace yourselves, because in a way I think that first scene is meant to remind everyone that this is possible in the movie, because the movie it made the decision, I made the decision, and the screenwriters made the decision to take its time. And so that's not everybody's cup of tea. But we were hoping that there was something about that opening scene that kind of reminded the audience that if they just stick with the story and pay attention, it was going to reward that patience.
I found the reward for me with that scene was at the very end when they walk outside
Yeah.
and you see all those lights that you're like, just
Careful.
like they just
Well,
kind
we
of,
got the spoiler
spoilers up. I could say this, you're ruining it if you listen. To me, I felt like it's like, hey, we're all that coyote. You were like saying you're all disposable in
Yeah.
these little pockets where, because they didn't take responsibility, chuck it on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like this disposable mentality, you know.
Well, now that we've already went there, can I ask you, because
So just for those who are listening, maybe audio only and are not looking,
Yeah.
I got so much flack last week
That's
for
fair,
an
yeah.
accidental spoiler that I could not have prevented. But spoiler alert for the invitation.
Spoilers. We're talking about
Thank you
spoilers.
for that. And
Continue.
given the ending and given the nature of this industry, especially when it comes to horror movies and
Yes.
wanting to constantly make sequels and continue successful
Great
things,
question.
have you been approached to make another invitation movie? Because you opened the door up to something that is very interesting there.
Yeah, it's so funny. We always thought that's such a good question because we always saw that ending as kind of like the sequel is for the audience to live out in their lives.
Yes. True horror.
Like deal with your life now. Look at
Yeah.
the person next to you, and just really pay some attention. But that's an interesting question. It's like I feel like Matt and Phil have said if there was a way to make a completely different movie, that would be a cool sequel.
I almost would be curious to see. So we were talking actually about Netflix series. I think it came up on Movie Talk maybe today. Like, what would you turn into a Netflix series? The Invitation as a Netflix series, and each episode is a different house.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Literally, because
Oh,
we could rock
anthology.
each of those
Right.
houses, and every single
Right.
one has a different coyote story.
Right,
you know? It's like-
right. Or, I mean, conversely, it's like everybody decides not to do it. They just play Scrabble instead. I mean, it could be really a funny sort of experiment because I think there's something to the idea that even those individual houses have something very different going on.
Totally.
And maybe equally terrifying, but also maybe kind of banal.
That'd be great for like at least two of them to have like a kind of a light Seinfeld touch. Where it's like, I thought this was a horror series. They're playing Scrabble.
Yeah, exactly,
Great.
exactly.
Reilly says he's got another awesome one.
I feel like I have a great one that will get into your directing, which I want to hear about.
Okay.
I'm going to butcher this name. So at JHONEEDJ. I don't know. What's the difference between showing what an audience wants to see and what you as a director want us to see?
Ooh, wow, that's such a good
Great question.
question. I
Right?
mean, I feel like what I've always believed about filmmaking, but especially with The Invitation, it's something that was kind of I had to relearn and think about again is the notion of restraint and withholding information. So it's hard because of course audiences want to know what's going on, but part of you being in control of that situation of the viewing experience demands that you withhold some information and basically just see how far you can test the audience to stay with you. And sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed, but for me I think it's really interesting to like not give everything away in the frame visually, so that you sort of see a little bit of something that makes you ask a question and kind of plants the seed of suspicion. But I'm a big fan of withholding quite a bit of information, both visually and in the dialogue.
Yeah, and I think it always goes back to my favorite thing, which is you don't show the shark, and you the audience uses their imagination, and that
Totally.
is more scary. So if you are at the
Totally.
reins, you can then start to play with the audience and lead them along, and you said it perfectly, I think. So
Well, and also sound. I mean, it's so funny that you use Jaws as an example because for me, as a kid watching Jaws, the scariest thing was the sound that woman makes at the beginning of the movie when she's being yanked under.
Yeah.
Those kind of like weird yelps and cries, like she's realizing something really fucked up is happening to her, and that really. I still think about that particular element that like sound just can fill in so much for the audience without having to kind of give it all away.
absolutely.
Makes a huge difference. What else we got, Reilly?
At Justin Powell, at Justin out there, I should say, what aspects specific to the female experience of being human do you feel are underexplored in the genre?
Yeah, that's a good one because I feel like oftentimes we see the same handful of metaphors over and over again.
Yep.
And that's an interesting one.
Well, I mean, I'm asked to sort of think about these issues a lot because I feel like there's this empowerment narrative out in culture that's very important for women to hear and to absorb. But for me, the reason I love horror and the reason I think a lot of people love horror generally, regardless of their gender, is because it actually puts us not in touch with our strength, but our vulnerability. We want to be scared. We want to feel terror. We want to feel helpless. There's a part of us that needs to know that we can handle that experience. And so I just would love to see more nuanced and more diverse and kind of more sort of, I guess I just want to say like broader depictions of what that vulnerability can be. Because it's not just like, I don't know, I don't want to just see a final girl.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I actually want more from the genre at this point than that. And particularly with women filmmakers, I think there is more there than that.
There was an opening sequence in Maniac, the Frank Calhoun version. And the reason that opening scene scared me so much is because the girl who becomes the victim doesn't do anything wrong. She does everything right. She essentially like saves her drunk friend and puts her drunk friend in a car and then goes home. She doesn't leave the door to her apartment complex open. Like, she was smart, and yet it still got her.
Yeah.
It scared me so badly. And I just think about the, like you said, this girl's not a final girl.
Right.
She's just a regular person who we can all relate to, whether you're a guy or a girl. You can relate to putting your drunk friend into the cab and going home. You can relate to just going about your night, and that's the deal. But ultimately, that at the end of the night, you meet your demise. I don't know what's scarier than that.
Yeah.
I wanted to add that you were talking about sound as far as your XX short. I really like the sound design of that.
Oh, cool.
And now that I know of the that what that gurgling weird sounds were coming from, but yet she is not like frightened by them. It's more like, how can I help?
Yeah.
Like it's a weird dynamic that if you're not aware that you're dealing with the son of Satan.
Yeah,
Sort of like and then towards the end there is also a very emotional situation that happens that works.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Thank you.
What else we got, Reilly?
All right, we're going to open it up now into the genre, and I love this question. Rocky Drago, at Rocky Drago, of course. What two actors would you like to see do a horror film? I say Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. Giving a little La La Land. Let's just flip that around. I love that. I love that question. So
That's
put
a
it to the
great
table first.
one.
That is a great idea. I want to see that.
Tilda Swinton's already done Demon Lover, so she's done every genre. I'd love to see Cate Blanchett do something in the horror genre.
Yeah.
Actor-wise,
Who
pass.
else?
I'll get some dude in a
That's a
minute.
good one. Is there anybody that you in particular would love to put into one of your films, scary or no?
There's so many actors
Yeah.
I love. It's actually hard to just choose like one or two. I mean, there's so many. This is why we go to movies.
Yeah.
So
I would watch Sterling K. Brown read the phone book.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
if he wanted to do anything even remotely close to the genre, I would lose my mind. He's just, to me, he's tops right now. I'm trying to think of some other people. That's a good one though.
Guys, isn't it great? I can't get Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone out of my mind now because I love them so much in Crazy Stupid Love and now La La Land.
Yeah.
It would be really fun to spin that around now that we know they're
That's
so
interesting.
romantic comedy. Put them
Yeah.
in a situation like maybe a Green Room
Well,
or a
Gosling
Thriller.
and Kirsten Dunst were in All Good Things,
Right,
which
right.
is sees him in a
right.
bit more sinister role, and based on Robert Durst loosely, which I actually enjoyed the film for the most part. But yeah, he's gone creepy before. Maybe we could push him a little bit further into it.
Yeah.
Maybe the Strangers Part 2 could be Ryan Gosling and Emma
wow.
Stone.
Hey, I would love that.
to see that.
All right,
like a spiritual sequel to La
There
La
you
Land.
go. Hollywood, you're
In an alternate
welcome. There you
universe.
go. What else we got, Reilly?
All right. At D's assistant. I'm sorry, guys. I just can't. If time travel existed and you can experience any horror movie ever in theaters, what would you pick? I love this.
Great question.
I'd go back and see Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But with also, I would not have wanted to see it now. I'd want to see it then because now I already saw it. So
Yeah.
I'd want to experience it like how they back in the 30s experienced it.
Oh,
I'd
that's
probably
a
go
great.
The Exorcist.
That was what I was
Just
gonna
because
say.
that was such a big shock overall. Like, even if I had seen it before in the present, I love how I'm taking this so seriously with the rules. Going back and just experiencing that communal reaction to that kind of material would be pretty cool.
For the first time. I mean,
Yeah.
having never seen anything like that before. When it was re-released in theaters, the version you never saw, I did go see it, and
Oh,
it was
me
a
too.
great theatrical experience.
Oh,
but
I
the,
remember
the
that.
theater was ultimately the one I was in was kind of empty. But to see, and also I had seen the movie before at that point. So like to be there on Christmas weekend when The Exorcist is coming out for the first time, I can't imagine how crazy. And the pictures of the people waiting in line, like snaking around the block,
Totally.
like that whole experience of having to wait for something and then have it pay off.
You know what's a great way to travel back in time? Go to your theater at the Revival houses, you weirdos. There's no time travel. You know what? I just went and saw RoboCop last week, and Peter Weller was there. It was the most fucking awesome experience ever. Not only is that guy a doctor and he's incredibly smart, but seeing that theater packed with real Verhoeven fans and RoboCop fans, there is nothing like it. So if The Exorcist is playing in a theater, go see it because you're going to be surrounded by people who love it.
I just saw Wild at Heart at the Egyptian on a print. I had never seen it before. David Lynch and a movie with Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage.
Amazing
It
film.
was a great theatrical experience. Like so great. All right.
Well, there's something to be said about the time travel element and getting with an audience that doesn't know this.
Exactly.
And is anybody shocked that I would say Jaws? Because of the reaction, it creating the blockbuster.
Absolutely.
What is it like? You said it, Karyn, with the guttural primal sound of this woman getting killed by a shark. What is that like when nobody knew this was coming? The trailers don't even ruin anything in that time in 1975. So you don't even know what to expect.
Reilly, I'm older than you, and I saw it in the theater, and it made me not.
Bless you.
I grew up right across the beach was right there, and me and my sister could not go to the beach for a year.
I mean, I would love to be in to just hear that. I mean, I hear people fainted. I hear people gasping, people screaming. That's what I would
My
want.
dad he had a cup of Hawaiian punch in his hand. My dad is a giant, by the way. He played professional football in Canada. Like, he's a big dude. And he's sitting there, and when Ben Gardner's head floats up, he took his Hawaiian punch and he threw it.
Which I love.
He was so scared. It scared
Spielberg.
the crap out of him.
It worked. They didn't. I love that story that they didn't have enough of those, so he filmed it in a pool and added the Ben Gardner head, and that's what they were looking
That
for.
floating head scared
It's
the
so
piss out of
good,
me.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more, and then unfortunately, got to wrap it up.
Okay.
So sad that we're done already.
I know, that was fast. Okay. I like this. I'm selfish. So at Danny Allen, Danny Dank, since we know the new Halloween takes place after 2, will it lead into Halloween 4?
Oh, interesting.
That was where that's where I was going with this, because okay, so we're going to ignore part 4, Return of Michael Myers and Revenge of Michael Myers and all that weird stuff with the cult. I just think it's not going to lead into Halloween 4 at all. I think this is going to just go off into its new direction, which it should, which it needs to do.
I think you're right. I think it's gonna go off into a whole new track.
I suspect it might. I've read and reread that quote over so many times because the exact sentence he said is, and for our mythology, we're focusing mainly in the first 2 movies and what that sets up and then where the story can go from there. So that to me says maybe they might stay within those movies, but at the same time, it most certainly doesn't say, I'm throwing the rest out the window and I'm going to ignore them. So,
well, you know, if you look at Rob Zombie's Halloween remakes, and actually John Carpenter was not a fan of those. They really got into the origin, the behind the scenes story of the kid and all that stuff, which doesn't really matter when you look at the original Halloween. It's less about that. And Halloween 2 is less about that. It's more about the horror of this unstoppable thing that he did on purpose called The Shape. And I think you got somebody who knows that. Danny McBride is a horror fan. Gordon's a horror fan. They're going to keep that original mythology and expand on it, and just update it. It's not like they're going to go back in the 80s and make an 80s film. They're going to move all that forward. So I think they're just going to put Halloween in the world that we live in now, but using all the tropes that actually worked in the first 2 films.
I think maybe what he could be referencing for Halloween 4 is doing exactly what you said, Schnepp, but do we get, instead of expanding on or trying to explain The Shape, we go into the Laurie Strode family line? Is there a daughter maybe later?
Sure.
That was what Halloween 4 was about, that Michael Myers is targeting family members, which
I certainly hope not. I thought that was lame.
I think it's lame too, and hopefully they won't do that.
Karyn, are you a Halloween fan?
Of the first 2.
Yeah.
The first 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm actually hoping they do something that like reinvents the whole thing, because I feel like when you already have a genre film that's been remade and serialized already so many times, it's almost like if you're going to take that on, it's because you have to completely, like, in a way, blow it up and
Yeah.
start over again. So I'm curious to know what that will look like.
You know, did you get a chance to see Zombies Halloween?
I didn't.
I mean, a lot of people didn't like it. I actually liked it, but I'm able to separate it from the original. You know what I mean? Because it was like,
Right.
I love the original Halloween. I liked his take on Halloween, but then you always have the original. So it's like you're always going to have the original with whatever these guys do.
Yeah.
But hopefully they're able to refresh it and rebrand it and make it something relevant to everybody now.
I can
Yeah.
separate it from the original, but no. No.
Fair enough.
No.
It's not for everyone, and that's okay. Well,
Actually, for a person that I want to bring back into the genre, Octavia Spencer. Let's give her another
Absolutely.
shot, because what he did to her in that movie, not fair.
fair enough. I want to see Octavia Spencer in anything. Again,
Totally.
same.
There you go.
Same with Sterling K. Brown. So yes, bring it on. Anything they want, I will sign up for. All right, that's gonna do it for us today here on Nightmares. Thank you so much for watching with us. We had a great time, and let's say a big thank you to Ms. Karyn Kusama. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank
We're
you.
so thrilled to have you.
Thanks.
And XX is in theaters and on VOD this Friday, February 17th. Thank you to the panel. Perri, where can everybody find you?
You guys can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Perri Nemiroff. Of course, Collider Nightmares every Wednesday. Check it out. Collider Behind the Scenes airs this Saturday, and I'm pretty sure most of the people at this table can confirm it is an excellent episode, so keep an eye for that.
And Mr. John Schnepp.
Hey, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, just at John Schnepp. My Slayer comic issue 2 comes out. Get ready for some more gore and blood at the end of this month. Pick it up and check out Heroes. See you later.
Love it. So metal. And Reilly?
At Reilly Around on Twitter and Instagram. Tonight on the live show of Schmoes No, Can't Talk Today, at 7 p.m. I'll see you then.
And you can find me at Clarke Wolfe, Clarke with an E, Wolf with an E, and you can find the rest of my conversation with Gore Verbinski on Collider Video. So go watch it. We're talking all kinds of fun things. Thanks so much, and we will see you in your nightmares.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.